I hear for-profit prisons, it seems like that should be an oxymoron. The idea that people are making money off of imprisoning Americans is always shocking to me. And now there's an even more shocking story because people are going to be making money off of imprisoning non-Americans or detainees in Florida. When you look at the kind of money that's being made right now by private prisons, you see there are 200+ prison facilities around this country, 150,000 beds, and $5 billion, that's a B, $5 billion in profit each year off of prisons. It's just a shocking number when you hear that. Brave New Foundation is an amazing group of people, and what they've done is they put together a film about the idea of building a detention facility in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Let's take a look at this.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, along with Senator Bill Nelson, had co-signed a letter of endorsement for this facility. And I find that absolutely inconceivable that both of those individuals would facilitate secure communities by building one of the largest deportation centers in the country in our own backyard, only for money.
I mean, it's evident that we're not supporting this prison. The politicians are supporting this. They keep saying and they keep announcing that the residents supporting this. How can they say that if 98% were against it?
When you see something like that, it does give you pause. Of course, I'm going to have some questions about, what the alternatives are, because when you see a private prison, you know that there's a need for detention. When you see the immigration laws, when you know what's going on the borders, when you know what's going on in a state like Florida. So what we've done is we brought the producer of this piece, Axel Caballero, in. Axel, thanks for being on the Young Turks today.
Thanks for having me.
Take us through this a little bit. Right now, because I do come at this and I think, all right, I understand why people in Pembroke Pines wouldn't want this. Nobody wants a prison in their backyard. It brings down the value of homes. It sort of puts a little bit of a stain on a neighborhood. What are the alternatives to doing something like this?
Well, first, what we have to see is what's going on in Florida, what's going on in Pembroke Pines and Southwest Ranches. When we found out about this story, the community itself has been fighting against its detention facility for a long time. They've been voicing their opposition. They know that it's both detrimental for the community as well as a moral issue, particularly because they're seeing how these corporations, Corrections Corporation of America and the GEO Group, have gone into Florida and bombarded the legislature with money and the public officials with money, and they see this as something affecting them. And so what they want first and foremost is to cancel this out, to have a real approach, a real public policy discussion as opposed to a money discussion.
I understand that. Okay, so let's say I'm going to be a devil's advocate here. I'm going to say, look, Alex, we got to put these people somewhere. This company's coming in. They're going to create jobs. They're going to build this detention facility that we need because of our immigration laws, and we are detaining people, and we have an influx of, you know the story. What do you say to me in that case? What's the alternative to this? Well,
what we don't need, which is kind of the opposite, yeah, right, in taking that approach, what we don't need is making this a for-profit decision. When we have CCA profiting $150, $200 a night per inmate, every single night, there's a motive to incarcerate. Yeah. This is not an immigration policy. This is a money-making machine. And so that's what we have to stop first. Stop the money-making machine, and then an economic issue. This is an immigration issue, and that is the main distinction here. What ICE needs to do, and Department of Homeland Security, when securing these contracts, is they have to see what is impacting in the immigration debate, not what is impacting the pockets of these CEOs.
Right. So tell me then, so Debbie Wasserman Schultz, we like her. She's a friend of the Young Turks. This is the first ill word I've heard spoken of her in circles of people that I know. She is, of course, getting money from CCA, and she says, this is my district, this will create some jobs, it's a detention facility. What's going on in the fight against Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Because I know Democrats in Congress are even up against her for this.
Yeah, definitely. We have Luis Gutierrez, for example, who has been very outspoken, Jesse Jackson Jr., who was very outspoken.
Because they're trying to do something else in Crete, Illinois.
Correct. Because this has happened in Arizona, in Illinois, in Georgia, where we have Stewart Detention, the largest one. And we expect this from Republicans, right? Because they have received over $400,000, the Republican Party in Florida, from CCA and from the lobby group from private prisons. We saw it from Rick Scott, for example, who appointed his inaugural fund advisor, who was a CCA lobbyist as well. So we expect that. That's what's puzzling about this, that suddenly we have both Senator Bill Nelson Nelson, as well as Representative Wasserman, putting a letter of endorsing saying that it is a jobs issue. But that's what's puzzling about it, because there is an immigration undertone. When we have the president, when we have the Democratic Party going out there and speaking vehemently about immigration, and then we have Debbie Wasserman putting out a letter of endorsement for a facility that's going to make money off of immigrant detentions. That's what's puzzling about it, and that's why we're calling for a particular petition for Debbie Wasserman to say no to CCA.
And how's that going? Just let us know how it's working.
Well, we've made multiple calls to her office. The community in itself, 98% of the community has expressed their opposition. That's another part of it. If you have most of your constituents saying that they do not want the private prison, and you haven't answered to them, you haven't even approached them, then that becomes a problem.
All right. Well, Axel Caballero, you're doing yeoman's work to try and get this done, and going up against, the power of a private corporation like CCA and the power of a very influential congresswoman and a senator running for re-election. Not always the best climate in which to do it, but it sounds like you're representing the small people. You can see Small Town, I should say, Small Town versus Giant Private Prison Corporation. It was released, and now it can be seen on Brave New Films. Is that right?
Correct. mycuentame.org/Debbie say no to CCA.
Okay, Axel Caballero, thanks for being with us on the Young Turks.